Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing a gameplay from the game The Siege of Cadiz 1625. This is from C3i Magazine, number 38, and is designed by Daniel Hernandez Iniesta, graphics by Niels Johansson. And so let's get this underway. Now, I did do a first look or midweek magazine episode on C3i number 38, which was, of course, the last issue to be personally overseen by Roger McGowan. Now, this is, as you may guess, a kind of naval and land combination game. It is a solitaire game, and it is very interesting. It's an interesting situation, but it's also not overly complicated, so it's fairly easy to pick up. It's not an overly complex game, which is good. So you play as the Spanish, and the game system will handle the allies, as they are called. It was the English and the Dutch, I believe, on the Allied side. So we do have here a sequence of play card, and on the back you have some tables. There are also some player aids inside the rule book, which I can show you in a bit. But here on the, we'll walk through setup really quick. So on the turn track, we have morale and turn. So morale is up here. It starts at 25. The turn is down here and starts at 0. Okay, then in the Bay of Cadiz, we put the blockade on its inactive side, which, where is that? Right here. Then we have Spanish fleets in zones A through H. They have 2. We have one here that I put in A, and this other one I put in C. So where the fleets are located impacts certain things for the start of the game. So I left them, I put them a little bit more inside because that's a little bit more advantageous from a starting point standpoint. So then our leaders, we have, I believe there are 4 of them. I don't remember at the moment. I think there are 3, actually. Yes, 3 leaders. The Duke of Medina, Sidonia, that is this guy up here. And then we have Giron and Ruiz. Giron is here, and Ruiz is over here with the fleets. So you can move your leaders around, and they have impacts that we'll get into when we get into gameplay. Okay, then we place all our fortifications based on the difficulty level. Now that is on this table right here. So you can see you have 3 difficulties: easy, medium, and hard. I chose medium just to make it a little bit more challenging, even though I'm new to the game. And so you can see we get 1 damaged fortification or 1 Spanish resource at level 1. And then we would get, during the possible assault on Cadiz, minimum strength of an allied fleet in a maritime zone that contains a landing arrow is 2. So the stronger the fleet, like if for easy, it requires the fleet to be at strength 3, which is harder, obviously, to be at than strength 2. Then if the assault on Cadiz takes place, maximum number of turns the Spanish player must resist. So you get less time at easy, 1 extra turn at medium, and 2 extra well, it's actually the other way around. So the turns, the maximum number of turns the Spanish player must resist. So you have to resist 10 turns at hard, 9 at medium, and only 8 at easy. So we are playing medium. Okay, so back over here, place the Allied fleet advance marker in the Plymouth box of the advance track. That is over here. So this is the Allied fleet, marks their progress from Plymouth, which is of course in England, to the Bay of Cadiz. So you have, you know, Falmouth and then Galicia and so on down the track to get to Cadiz. Okay, so we will go to initial phase. So we start the turn, we advance the T marker, And we have -1 to Spanish morale if a Spanish fleet with a strength of 0, -3 if both Spanish fleets with a strength of 0. Currently, their strength is tracked over here. Both fleets have a strength of 1. Then the Allied fleet, we don't know. We know it's coming, essentially, but we don't know its location. So it has not been detected. All right, and then when we get to turn 2, we'll have the effects of the 30 Years' War, which is also on this side card here, the command sheet. I will show you that when we get to it. Then we also have, what's next? Turn weather. So we'll have to determine the weather. Then we check for detecting the Allied fleet. The earlier we can detect it, the better off we are, because it does impact how many resources you receive. Okay, and then we'll get into the operational phase. I made a quick correction because I hadn't put the fortifications out. Now, they're represented on both maps, so depending on where you are, I believe, and it doesn't really explain this in the rules, but I think they start out on the bay because the fleet has not arrived yet. Then once landings take place, then you have to worry about the city with the assault on the city. So that's when maybe you would move the counters over here. Now we have to have 1 damaged fortification, and you can use a resource to repair. And so I'm going to take Sancti Petri here, and we're going to mark it as damaged. You flip it over, it's now damaged. So that one of my first tasks will be to repair that. So let's move our turn track to 1. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is you have to, well, we would roll for the 30-Year War effect, but that only happens in turns 2 through 6. So we will now check the weather, which is on the command sheet right here. So this game requires 1d6. I'm going to put it right. Let's see. Let's put it here. And we're going to roll. And we got a 4. And turn 1, let's see. 1d6 is a 4. Weather for this turn, gusty. Clouds begin to cover most of the sky, and the threat of rain is imminent, complicating naval movements and sightings. So we'd have to roll 1d6 per fleet. On a roll of 1, all fleets suffer 1 attrition point. Okay, so let's roll for fleet 1. That's a 6. And fleet 2 is a 4. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay, now we got to roll for Allied fleet detection. We have to roll a 6 on turn 1. So we have to get really lucky. And we got a 5. So close. And I could have spent a resource point, but I currently don't have any. So I was a little hazy on whether I was allowed to do that. Spend something I don't yet have. So now, next we would move to the resources. And here in the book, you can see resources, Spanish player receives 2 if the Allied fleet has not been detected. So we get 2. We also get 1 extra for having the Duke up here in the Jerez box. So that would give us a total of 3. Now they're tracked down here, right? So we're going to move 1 to repair. Okay, so quick correction. I think this is right. In terms of our fortifications at start, you have it mentions the bay and the city, right? In terms of repair and defense. So repair is used to fix and build here, and defense points are used to build and repair here. And it says if it's not on the map, then you have to build it. What I'm not clear on is that it says you start with a damaged fortification. So if there's no fortifications on the map, how could one be damaged? So I'm assuming, and maybe it's in the rules and I just don't see it, but I'm assuming that these do start on the map and these do not. Okay, so I'm going to assume that this is correct, and we have these kind of forts up here on this map, and then we'll build defenses on this map. So we started, as I mentioned, with a damaged Sancti Petri, so I was going to use 1 repair point for that. Now I have 3, and I was going to use the other 2 on defense, put that at 2, which will allow me to build 2 of the fortresses, and it's a 2-stage process, and you can only spend 1 point per turn. So the first one, you put it on the map as a damaged, and then you would spend another point on the next turn or a subsequent turn to actually make it active. So let's get into the operational phase. So the first thing would be turn events, and there is an event table right here. Now in this case, that only happens if the Allied fleet advance marker, which is up here in Plymouth, is actually in the Bay of Cadiz. So the fleet may not necessarily be up here anymore, but we haven't detected it, so we don't know where it is. So if the advance marker has not been detected, which it has not, we would skip the second step, which is the Allied fleet advance. Then we go to Spanish leader movement, which would allow us to move leaders around. You can only have 1 per space. So currently I have 1 with a fleet, I have 1 in Cadiz, and I have the Duke up there kind of helping out with resources. So I'm not going to move anybody. Okay. Now we would have Allied leader movement again if the fleet was in the Bay of Cadiz, which it is not. Okay. We also can't do the naval blockade because the fleet is not in the Bay of Cadiz. Then we can spend I've already spent my points, so let's not get into that. But if you had a point on, you can spend a point on spying, which would allow you to conduct another attempt to detect the Allied fleet if it hadn't been detected previously. Or we could reveal an Allied leader counter, but again, that doesn't take place. Okay, so next would be naval movement. And again, we don't have any fleets to move on the Allied side because they have not yet arrived. So then we would have Spanish movement. And leaderless Spanish fleets may voluntarily move to 1 adjacent maritime zone per turn. Our leaderless fleet is fleet number 2, which is this one up here. So we could move it 1 zone if we wanted to. Spanish fleet with a leader can move 2. So this guy could move 2 if we wanted to. I mean, it might make sense to move him here to E, and maybe move, well, we can move him here into I, which would put him in a start space for one of the Allied fleets, perhaps, to arrive at. So let's just do that. So we've moved our 2 there. Then we would have combat if there were any combat, or bombardment, again, if the fleet was here, which it is not. You could do assault, and then, again, the enemy's not here yet. So then we would check fleet attrition, which I actually already did, so I did that out of order. Spanish fleets suffer the loss of 1 strength point only if they performed any naval movement during this. Oh, well, I don't want to do that then. I'm going to undo my moves because I don't want to take a strength point loss. I only have strengths of 1. So we're just going to hang. And then we would go to repairs. Okay, so repair, we'll spend this 1 repair point, and we will flip this guy back over to full strength. And then we're going to use our 2 defense points. We will build Santa Catalina here. That's this guy. And you can see that's its damage side. So we put that one out. That costs us 1. Then we will do, let's do San Sebastian here. And we'll do the same thing. It goes on its damaged side. And then we move that up to 0. We've completed that, and that ends the operational phase. So we would move on to turn 2 and go through the same thing. Now we're going to again roll for, this time we will roll for the 30 Years War effect. We got a 6, which says safe arrival of the Indies galleons may only occur once per game. The player receives 1 naval strength point to be applied to a Spanish fleet. Cool. So we will give it to Fleet 1. Well, let's go Fleet 2, actually, because that one does not have a leader, although I could move one there. Okay, so Fleet 2 gets that, and I have to remember that if we roll a 6, that would end up not being able to be applied twice. So that is the 30 Years War effect. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Now we'll go to turn weather. So I will again roll here. And we got a 5, which is the same thing we had last time. So, and there is a marker for this as well. So here's our weather marker. So I can put that on here. So I know now when we get to that phase, we'll have to roll to determine if we have any attrition. Right? And then I think the next step is to roll resources. Allied fleet, we have to do detection. So let's do detection. Now it's 5 or 6 this time. I can also spend a resource point, which I don't have at the moment. I didn't save any. So let's just 5. So this time we detected them. Okay, so they have been detected. Okay, so we have to roll again to see where the fleet is. It's now been detected. We got a 1. Okay, so this chart is actually in the book. It is the Allied advance location. So we are in turn 1. A 1 or a 2 means it is in Falmouth. So we will put it in Falmouth, which is good. That gives us a little extra time. We get 4 resource points now that we may use. So we get 4, and we get an extra 1, so we get 5 total if the Duke is in the Jerez de la Frontera space. Now we have to determine what we want to do with them. I'll use 2 for naval strength. I don't have anybody damaged now out here, so we're going to put 2 in Cadiz, and we'll keep 1 in reserve. All right, because you can only use 2 in each category. So again, we're going to go through the operational phase. So the Allied fleet, again, not in the Bay of Cadiz. If the Allied fleet had been detected earlier, so that's not the case yet, that will be in turn 3. We would then move it up. So next turn, we're going to move it here, and then it'll move on down the road until it gets to Bay of Cadiz. Spanish leader movement. So we can move our leaders between Cadiz and the fleet. So I'm going to take Giron here, and I'm going to move him to be the leader of Fleet 2 for now. And then if I need to, I can always move him into Cadiz if and when there is an assault. To me, it doesn't really make sense to not have your leaders out with the fleets beforehand because of the benefit of having them with the fleets. So we are not going to do any movement because I don't want to have to use any strength or anything. Now it did say, if I remember correctly, Spanish player can only use naval strength and reserve points during the resources step. So I should have done this before. I have 2 points. I'm going to move each one of these up 1. Okay, so that gives us Fleet 1 has a strength of 2, and Fleet 2 has a strength of 3. So that's good. And then maybe next turn I can actually move somebody, because, well, I could move them now. Let's do that. Let's move him here. We'll move Fleet 2 there, and we'll move Fleet 1 here. So they will both lose 1 strength point. So we gained 1, we lost 1. And I have to roll for attrition, so we might lose another one. So this could have been a stupid move here. You know what? Let's live dangerously. All right. So we roll here, and we need to roll if we roll a 1, there's an extra point of attrition. Fleet 1 gets a 6, and Fleet 2 gets a 5. 5. Okay. No extra attrition, so that's good. And I believe we now move on, because I don't have any... Oh, I do have defense points. So let's flip this one and this one. That'll spend our 2 defense points. Now we're done. And that is that. So let's go to our next turn. Start there. Then we go to the 30-year war effect. Roll. We got a 1 this time. Bad weather in the Bay of Cadiz, -1 to the turn weather determination. Die roll. Okay, so now we'll roll for weather. It's a 2, which becomes a 1. Intense storms, near hurricane strength winds with torrential rains. Only the brave dare going to sea. In these conditions, at great uncertainty, in these conditions of great uncertainty of returning safely to port. Naval movement is allowed, but naval combat can't take place. An Allied assault on Cadiz cannot occur. All fleets suffer 2 attrition points. Yikes. Okay, well that would move them both to 0, actually. Okay, well that's not good. So then we would go to the Allied fleet advance. So we move this guy down 1. And we get our resource points, which is again 5. So I'm going to put 2 in naval strength. And I'm going to put 2 in defense. And I will put 1 more in reserve. So I have 5 total now. Or 6 total because we did have the extra 1. So we will use our naval strength to move both of these back. Actually, that's wrong. That is wrong. Because we have fleets with 0 strength, I believe that we get less resource points. If I remember correctly, Spanish player receives 4 if it's been detected, -1. Actually, no, I guess not. So we do get our 5. We do get our 5. Okay. All right, so I was right. So this was at 2, this was at 2. And we're spending 2 to move both of these back to 1. Okay. Now that that is done, we go to the operational phase again, which is also going to be fast. So basically, I'm just going to skip ahead because I know we don't have anything here until we get the fleet on arrival. So I am just going to continue to build my defenses here. And we have 1 left. It is San Felipe. Put that here on its damaged side. Oh, I get it. I get it. Forget it. I'm an idiot. So I just realized what I did wrong. This is on that you get this as a or you could have a 1 resource point at level 1. Now I finally understand. Okay, the cloud has cleared. The light bulb has appeared above my stupid head. I know now these do not have anything on them because it doesn't say that they do. So we built this guy back from damaged, and we've done these 2 and that one. I have 1 point left. We are going to do Santa Catalina, which is up here. We'll put that as damaged. And then I can build the other 2 later, and that would spend my other point. There we go. Now I'm not feeling as dumb as I was before. Actually, with my reserve points, I can probably put the other ones out too. Although it does say you're supposed to spend those at earlier, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm an idiot and I forgot. So we'll put El Putal out, and we'll also put Matagorda, which is here. Okay. So I think you can actually move these over here for when it's in the bay, I think, because these are technically city fortifications because this is Cadiz right here. So once we get into the next turn here, we will do that. So that actually does spend all my points. And we go to the next turn. So we move this up. have not been doing the morale thing. It just occurred to me here. I don't think we have. Oh, that's what goes down if you have zeros for the fleet strength. I think is you lose morale points. Where did I see that? I'm pretty sure I saw that. So I'm going to actually move this down 2 because I think that's what it was. You lose 2 morale points if your fleet strengths are at 0. Like 1 for 1 being 0 and 2 for 2 being 0. I think that's what it was. And I know I saw that somewhere and I don't remember. Is it on here? Yes. It's actually -3, so it should be there. So you get -1 to Spanish morale if a Spanish fleet with a strength of 0, and -3 if both fleets have a strength of 0. Okay, so let's roll for our 30 Years' War. It's a 2. Berber pirates attack. Roll 1d6. Player loses morale points equal to half, rounded up. Okay. 5. That means 3. So 1, 2, 3. We are down to 19 morale points. Okay, that was our event. Let me put this marker on there because it does have a marker for it. We move on to the next thing. They move closer. And yeah, turn event. I've been skipping turn event for some reason. Does that happen if turn events? Yeah, that only happens when they're in the Bay of Cadiz. That's right. That is the 30 Years' War. The turn event goes there. 30 Years' War. I think that, yep, there it is. It's right here. Okay, now we got the correct markers out. I know you can't see those, but now we have our correct markers out. Okay, we move on. Let's see, we've got Spanish leader movement, which we're not going to do. And, we have to do our resources. So we're going to do 2 naval strength, 2 repair for out here. Nothing for defense, and we will use the other one for reserve, but I'm going to spend it on spies. Oh, wait, no, I'm not, because I don't need to. So we're just going to have 1 reserve. Okay, so our naval strength we have to do early, which I didn't do. So we'll do that right here. And that puts them back there. Then for repair, we're going to turn over these 2. And that's that, I think. I don't think this should be out. So I'm going to move to turn 5. And we are going to go through this correctly this time. So we don't have any fleets with a strength of 0. They're both at 2 right now. So we do get our, well, let's do the 30 Years' War. We've got this turn and 1 more to use that. So we got a 4. That is Allied Fleet Coordination, -1 to the detection roll. So that's basically no effect. We're going to move them up. They'll arrive next turn. And we get resources. Spanish fleet, Allied fleet detected is 4. There's a typo on the sequence of play card. It says both of them say not, but one has bold, which is the correct one for not. So Allied fleet detected, we get 4 resources, plus we get 1 for our Duke up there, El Duque. And let's move him here. So we'll spend 2 more. That'll get us to that. So that's 2 of our 5 used. And we'll use repair. We only need 1, I guess. And we'll get that up there, I guess. That's about all we can do. Oh, I do have a damaged over here. So let's put it, that was 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So we're going to flip this. We're going to put this one out. So that's those 2. And then we have 2 reserve that we can use next turn. They do arrive next turn. So let's move right to that, I believe. I didn't roll weather. Let me roll the weather. It's a 6, cloudy. Skies are abundant with clouds, which leads to think of the worst weather at sea, but no complications for navigation are expected. No effect in the game. Okay. Good. That was 6. I'll put that there. And now we go to turn 6. And our fleet is going to arrive this turn. So we'll start with the 30-year war effect. We got a 2. Let's see, 2. And a 2 is Berber Pirates again. So we're going to lose some more morale. Put this up here so we can roll for it. It's a 3. So that's going to end up being 2 morale points lost, down to 17. And then we go to, we did weather. So now we do resource points. I don't know if I have anything to spend them on, to be honest. Oh, I do. I have that. So that would be 1. We can't pick up another reserve point. Well, they arrive. So let's not be hasty here. I don't need any naval strength because we're already at 2. So let's go through the operational now because they have arrived. So this will be good because we have not seen this yet. So we're going to do our operational phase, right? So we're up to Spanish leader movement. Okay, then you get Allied fleet advance. If the marker reaches Cadiz Bay, see location and advance table. Well, that's not on here. So that must be in the rule book. Allied advance and location. Oh, wait, they did arrive. That's the wrong thing. If the marker reaches Cadiz Bay, see location and advance table. On the turn that the Allied fleet arrives at the Cadiz Bay space, shuffle the 3 Allied fleet counters. That's these 3. Ensuring the side without names facing up for each fleet, roll 1d6 to determine its initial position on the Bay of Cadiz. Map. Okay, so it looks like we have 1. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I think this is 1 to 5 and 6. So that's a 6. So 6 is, I guess, here. And then we have, I think we have to flip that over. Roll 6 is lower zone. Okay, so they go down here. The next one is a 2, that's upper zone. So these go up here. And this one, another 2, so that would also be up there. More than one fleet may be placed in the same maritime zone. Fleets are placed face down in the corresponding starting zone. So they're faced inactive side, I guess. All right, whatever. That's fine. All right. Now we go to the leaders. Shuffle the 4 Allied leaders. So these are our Allied leaders. Denby, Nassau, Essex, and Cecil. Okay, so let's kind of shuffle them in my fingers, not really thinking about it. And I'm going to hold them upside down like this. And it says, assign the first leader to Allied Fleet 1. So we'll put him up here. Flip him over. It is Denby. The second leader goes to Fleet 2. That is Cecil. Okay. Place each leader with its corresponding. The remaining 2 leaders are set aside on reveal. They are not used for the rest of the game. Okay, so we don't use the other 2. So we have Denby and Cecil here. Okay, and so now we move on to what? What's next? Okay, so next would be Allied leader movement. And if the Allied fleet markers in Bay of Cadiz, which it is, then we would, oh, wait. When the Allied advances without looking, shuffle the 3. Yep. We did that. Allied leaders movement. On a roll of 5 to 6, both leaders are moved from one space from left to right. It's a 5, so they actually will end up being in 2 and 3. So that's how that works. So they slide around, basically, between the different fleets. All right. Now, Cadiz naval blockade. If the Allied fleet advance markers in the Bay of Cadiz, which it is, we got to roll on the blockade table. Naval blockade. Oh, we don't know their strength. How do we know their strength? You need to know their strength for this. The Allies receive 6 resources. So I screwed it up. We're supposed to roll, and then that will determine how the Allies spend their 6 resource points, which are over here. So we're going to roll. We got a 2. So a 2. Okay, so 2 says it's a 1 to 3. First is naval strength. So they would spend 2 on that. Then they would spend 2 on supplies. Then they would spend 2 on reserves. Okay, so the Cadiz assault is what they do not do. All right, now that we know that, naval strength, okay, immediately increase the strength of the strongest Allied fleet by 1. Well, none of these have a strength. Right now they're all at 0, I guess. That's 3. That's 2. Okay, so I think with 2 points each, they would probably just do this. I think that would make sense to me. Okay, supplies are expended during the fleet attrition step. Reserves are expended during the turn for various actions. Okay, so now we have to roll. Well, naval blockade on Cadiz. We need to have all 3 fleets. Well, at least 2 fleets with a strength of 2 or more, and neither one of them has 2. So they spent these 2. So we have 2 supplies and 2 reserve left for the Allies. So let's go back to what we were doing. So we've checked that. Now we have Spanish spies. Oh, I wasn't supposed to reveal these guys. Oops. Because you can spend a resource point to do that, so we'll do that. 1 reserve point. So reveal, well, I'll pay 1 to reveal Denby. And we'll leave Cecil hidden for now. So I messed that up as well. This is why we do this. I go through it and I look at the book as I'm doing it so that we can actually get something out of this. All right, Allied naval movement. Each Allied fleet in order desired by the player performs a regular movement and a possible extra movement. So we roll 1d6, 5. Okay, so now we look here, and I'm just going to move one of these here. And these all have numbers on them, unless these don't. No, they do too, I think. Yep, all of them have numbers on it. It says that these are supposed to not have numbers, but I can see that that's Fleet 2 and this is Fleet 1, so I don't know. Anyway, 1 to 5, they go here. Now we roll the next one. That's a 4. That also would go here. That's Zone G, I guess. It's hard to tell. Or is it F? I guess it's G, the white lines. It's G. Okay, now you got to do the third one. That's a 1, so he would go here, where we have a fleet. Extra movement. Having concluded its movement, if the fleet has a leader, 1d6 is rolled. On a die roll of 5 or 6, extra movement is successful. Okay. So our leaders are in 2 and 3. So 2 is this one and 3 is this one. So we'll start up here. So we rolled a 2. And it does not get to move. Now we'll do the other one. That's a 3, does not get to move. All right. If at the beginning of the naval movement phase, so this would not be the case because they were not there at the beginning, even if they are now, I don't think they are. No, they're not. The landing areas are here. I think they're in A, G, and H. All right, leaderless Spanish fleets may voluntarily move to one adjacent. We know this already. So we can do naval combat if I don't move this guy. So let's do naval combat because why not? Let's see how that works. And for this guy, I'm going to leave him there because this is a beach area, so he's protecting the Puerta del Mar right here. So let's go with naval combat. Step 1, determine initiative. We don't have the naval initiative turn effect, which is we roll a 4 on the turn event, which I forgot to do. So let me do that. It's a 5, which is intense allied bombardment. Okay, so we'll put that there. We haven't come to that yet. Allies have initiative. We reveal the allied fleets and leaders. All right, so we're going to flip this over. That is fleet number 3. So that means Cecil gets revealed anyway. Okay, so it's 3. Then we do place a one-sided allied fleet counter on its fleet track. This serves to mark its strength. Oh, the strengths of the opposing fleets are compared. Subtract the allied value of the allied force from the Spanish force. The result is the naval force differential. So our fleet is a 3. Theirs is a 0. So then we would go to result. Naval combat table on the player aid card, which I think is on the back of this. It is. All right, so here's our naval combat table. So the modifiers. So +1 if a Spanish leader is with the fleet, -2 if Sir Edward Cecil, which is the case, is with the Allied fleet, +2 if there is an undamaged fortification. That would be this, I think. This is all the same one. So that's going to be, so right now we're at a +1. -1 if the weather is bad, which it's not. +1 if increased Spanish fleet effectiveness, no. No. +1 per maximum naval strength, a reserve point used by Spanish player. -1, only once per combat if the Allied side has at least 1 reserve resources point. They have 2. And rolls a 5 or 6. Okay. So we're going to roll. Our differential is 3. And we got a 1. So that says S1. The defeated fleet must withdraw. So I think S1 means we lose 1 of our strengths. And we have to retreat. So we will retreat to... We'll retreat here. And we lose 1 strength. That is fleet number 1. So they lose that. Oh, I didn't adjust this. So we had a +1. That cancels. No. No. Per maximum naval strength. I think we get a +2, which would be kind of an S1, A1. In case of ties, including 0, the winner is the side with the naval initiative. So both fleets lose 1, but they're already at 0, so they don't lose anything. Yeah, I guess. That's how it works. All right. So we lost due to, I guess, the better navy that the British had. Okay, now we would move to naval bombardment. It says a naval bombardment occurs in every maritime zone where the Spanish fortification damaged or undamaged, where there is at least 1 Allied fleet with at least 1 naval strength point. If, which is not the case, actually. They're in F, which is nothing. They're in I, which does have this, but his strength is 0. So, okay, move on. Spanish bombardment. Choose an allied fleet in the same maritime zone as a Spanish fortification and roll 1d6. Oh, cool. All right. 4. If the fortification is undamaged, it hits the fleet with a 5 or a 6. If it is damaged, it hits with a 6. Okay. Well, it wouldn't have done anything anyway. I don't think we can remove the fleet itself. All right, then we'd have allied cities assault, which is not going to happen. And then we have fleet attrition. Check each fleet for fleet attrition, including due to the turn's weather. Consult the weather table. Okay, so the way this attrition thing works is the allied fleets always suffer the loss of a strength point plus any attrition caused by the turn's weather. There is no attrition caused by the turn's weather. So they would both lose. Well, these two are the only ones that could lose anything. But if they have a leader, the leader offsets it basically. So the only one that would be impacted by that then would be this one. But the allies also have reserve points they can use to offset that as well. So basically nothing happens. The Spanish, it only has an impact if the fleet moved. This one did, because it went from here. No, it actually started here. Only if they perform, yeah. So the Spanish fleet would suffer a strength point if they performed any naval movement. I don't think retreating counts as naval movement. They already lost some stuff for that. So there's nothing there. Then for the Spanish, we have a repair here. So we're going to use that to do that. And Cadiz defense is a 0. And so we still have 1 reserve point left going into next turn. And we don't have any assault on Cadiz yet. So we're going to go back and we're going to go to turn 7. We no longer need to worry about the 30 Years' War. But we do have to worry about, well, nobody on the Spanish side has low enough morale to cause an issue. So we don't have to worry about losing morale. Okay. Then we would do weather, and then we would do the event. So the weather is a 6. So again, it's cloudy. So that's good. No effect. Then our turn event is a 2, which is Spanish naval reinforcements. The player receives 1 naval strength point to apply to 1 fleet. Cool. So we'll move this guy back up. That works out pretty nicely. And then we go to resources, which should have been done before. Okay, so the Allied fleet's detected. We get 5. I don't think we need any repairs right now. So I'm just going to put 2 in reserve, and I guess we lose the other 3. Or 1 in reserve, and we lose the other 4, actually. All right. Now for the Allies, they get 6, so we have to roll to see what happens with them. So let's do that. It's a 2 again. So that is, again, naval strength, supplies, and reserves. So naval strength, supplies, and reserve. Okay, so once they do that, I think we again have to go through and spend this. So naval strength immediately increased the strength of the strongest Allied fleet by 1. If there's more than 1 with the same strength, the Spanish player chooses the fleet. So this would go up by 1. And then I think it probably goes up by 2. So I get to choose. So I'm not going to choose one that has a leader because that would be stupid. So they're going to go to that, and that will use both of theirs. So once they get to 4, then you would go to the next strongest, which would be this one. So honestly, I probably should have made, this one should probably still be 0, and this one should be at 4 now. But we'll just let it ride because I screwed it up before. I've made plenty of mistakes. So again, we're learning here, and try to keep as much of this in the shot as possible. Okay, so now that we've done that, we go to the leaders movement. So Allied fleet advance, they're already here, so I don't think we have to worry about that. Okay, so once we do that, we go to Spanish leader movement, then Allied leader movement. We roll a d6. If we roll a 5 or 6, we have to move some leaders. It's a 6, so that means Cecil goes to fleet 1, and then B goes to fleet 3. So now this fleet here, fleet 1, is really dangerous because Cecil's a great commander, and they're at strength 3. Okay, so now we would go to the blockade, and they are not strong enough yet for the blockade, so we don't have to worry about that. We go to spies. I'm not going to worry about that because everybody's revealed. Then we go to movement, Allied naval movement, the order desired by the player. Okay, so we're going to roll again, and we'll start up here. We'll just go in order, 1, 2, 3. So that's a 3, and a 3 goes here. And that's a 2, and a 2 also goes there. Okay, now we'll move this guy. He got a 5, so a 5, 6 goes here. So that's fleet 3. So fleet 3 is going to have a tangle again here with this guy. So that's interesting. All right. Now, once we do that, so we have to do extra movement. So we'll start with up here with fleet 1. They got a 1, so that's no. And then down here, fleet 3 has a leader. They got a 5. So if they get a 5 or a 6 when they have a leader, they get to move and follow the arrow indicators on the map. Roll 1d6. Okay. 6. So well, this is G. So they would move back here, I guess. I did roll that again. Yeah. So I guess they moved back there. Okay. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but okay. Okay, so we don't have anybody in a zone where they can land troops. They weren't there at the start, at least. So I think we are probably kind of done here because we don't have anything that we can do. We are at maximum. Then we have to do bombardment, I guess. So they're still at 0 strength, so they can't bombard. So they can bombard, although it wouldn't do any good because at strength 0, you can't reduce them any further. We'll roll it anyway. It's a 5 or a 6. It's a 1. That's not going to do anything anyway. Okay, so Spanish repairs, we don't need any. We do have our 2 reserves. So we have to do attrition. We did not move, but they all get 1. So these guys would both go down by 1. That's 1 and 2. But again, they get to use a reserve point to offset the leaderless fleet. And because they have Cecil there, that would offset that one. So they don't lose any. Nothing lost to attrition on either side. And let's move to turn 9. I had forgotten earlier to move to turn 8. So we'll go to 9. We rolled a 6 here for our weather, which again is going to be cloudy, so no effect. Then we will do resources. Yes, resources, because this is what I keep forgetting. So let's roll for the allies. They get a 6. That's different. So they get Cadiz assault. Then they get reserves and then supplies. Reserves and supplies. So no naval strength improvement this turn. Okay. So supplies are expended during fleet attritions. Reserves are expended during the turn for various actions. So Cadiz assault is expended only during the tactical phase, which we might not have. All right. So we move on to turn event. It's a 6. That is increase Spanish fleet effectiveness. We get a 1 plus 1 DRM during naval combat, so that's good. Okay, next up is Allied fleet advance, then Spanish leader movement. Okay, so we don't have any fleet advance. Go to Spanish leader movement. I am not going to change anything. Then we go to Allied leader movement, and I have to roll. It's a 2, so nothing changes there. Then the blockade, nothing changes there. Spies we don't need. Movement, Allied naval movement. So let's try this again. We got a 6, so that would move them here. Okay, which is now in the danger zone. Now we'll do 2. He got a 2, which also moves him here. That's not going to be good. Okay, and then we got this guy. He got a 1, which moves him back up here, which is where he should be. And let's do extra movement. So fleets 1 and 3 have leaders. That's a 3. That's no for Cecil, and Denby gets a 4. So no, neither moves extra. Okay, we don't have to worry about landing. Now we have naval movement for the Spanish. I'm not going to move anybody because we have battle set up here. And we do need to fight these guys off. Okay, so there is a landing zone here. So if we don't knock these guys out of this zone, they're going to have a landing next turn, I believe. So now we will do naval combat. So that would reveal both of these guys with their strengths. Okay, and so now we go to naval combat. All right, determine initiative. So we don't have initiative because we didn't get that one. That's a 4 on the turn events. So we don't have that. So now we move to the Allies having initiative, reveal the Allied fleet and leaders, which we've done. Now we compare the strengths of the fleet. So this is 1 and 2, so that is a total of 3 and 1 is 4. They are a 3, so that's a 4 to 3, so we're at a -1 right now. And strengths are compared, subtract the value of the Allied from the Spanish. Result is the naval force differential. So we go to our naval combat table, which is on here. Right, our differential is less than 0. All right, Spanish leader, that's true. So we get a +1, a -2. There is no fortification in here. I don't think this counts. So I'm not gonna count it because that's on this map. So we've got, right now we're at a -1. Then we have no. We do have this, so we're at a 0 again. Don't have that. I have reserve points, so I'm going to use a reserve point to get a +1. Okay, and -1 only once per naval combat if the Allied side has at least 1 reserve point. They do, so if they roll a 5 or 6, they would get a -1. So we're at a +1 right now. It's a 2. Okay, so a 2 plus 1 is a 3, and a 3 is S1. So they are going to lose. This is fleet 2, I think. I think it's 2. Yes, fleet 2. It's very small for me, anyway. So they lose 1 and have to retreat. So they will retreat here. This is bad news because now, next turn, they can assault because they are at a beach area where they can land. So this is going to be fun. All right. So the side that inflicted the greatest number of hits wins, which we knew. All right. Losing side must withdraw to an adjacent zone that does not contain enemy fleets. Spanish fleet cannot withdraw into an allied starting zone. If the withdrawing fleet cannot comply, it shall remain in the maritime zone and cannot participate in combat for the rest of the turn. If the losing fleet that cannot withdraw is a Spanish fleet, Spanish player loses 2 morale points. Okay, combat with leaders. At the end of combat, each fleet, oh, I forgot to do this, that with a leader that participates in that has participated in combat rolls a d6. If you roll a 1, he's out of the game. 2 to 6, he stays with his fleet. Okay. So we'll do the allies first. It's a 4, so he stays. And it's a 2 for the Spanish, so no commanders were killed. And we go back over here. Okay, so we've done combat. Bombardment. So no up here. Down here we don't have any either. So yeah, there's no combat. No bombardment, rather. Because this is, yeah, they're in H. That's D. So no bombardment. So I think that ends the turn. We can do repairs. Spanish repairs. 1 resource. So, oh, we have to do attrition, but they didn't move. Spanish didn't move. They would all get the same effect. So he has a leader, so he won't lose 1. They would, but they got the reserve point they can spend, and they would not because they're already at 0 and they have a leader anyway. So we can do Spanish repairs. So we do have a reserve. We actually have 2 reserve points. I'm going to spend 1 for that to go back to 1. And that is that. Now we go to turn 10. We're at turn 10, so we're going to start with our... so we don't lose any morale. And we do the turn weather. It's a 2 this time, so that's bad weather. Rain and intense wind. Everything gets a -1 on naval combat. All fleets suffer 1 attrition loss. Okay, so everybody's gonna get a loss here. Now we do turn event. No, resources. So I will put, well, I can't put it in that because it won't do any good. We'll just move that up to 2, I guess. They get 6, so we have to roll for what they get. So let's roll. It is a 1, so we know what that is. That is the naval strength 2, 2, and 2. So nothing on the assault, which is actually kind of good. So this would go up by 1, and this would go up by 1. So 1 and 2, which unfortunately for me are these 2. Now they're at 2 as well. 2 with a 2 or more, so they do get a blockade. So if at least 2 Allied fleets have a strength of 2 or more, reduce Spanish morale by 1, and the naval blockade is effective. So the blockade is effective. Okay. And then we go to Allied leader movement. So 5 or 6. Nope. Spanish leader movement. I'm not moving anybody. Spies, no. Check for landing. Okay. So we have to check for landing now. All right. So let's see. Let me find it in the rule book here. 5.8. Allied landing. If at the beginning of the naval movement phase, any Allied fleet is in a maritime zone that contains a landing zone, a landing at Cadiz may occur. Check to see if the Allied fleet meets the landing requirements according to the game's difficulty level. They do. Because it's 2 at this difficulty level. The minimum strength of an Allied fleet in a maritime zone that contains a landing arrow is 2. Landing arrows here at Puerto del Mar. Okay. If the landing conditions are met in more than 1 landing zone, the Spanish player chooses the zone and the landing occurs. Okay, well, there's only one zone they can land in, because this fleet does not have the requisite strength, so they could not land here. They have to land here. So they're going to land at Puerta del Mar, which is here on our city map. Okay, so landing occurs, and we go to 6, it says. Okay. The assault on Cadiz was one of the Allied objectives in addition to blockading Cadiz in order to force the city to surrender. Once the assault on Cadiz is initiated, the operational phase in the Bay of Cadiz ends, and the game enters into a unique phase, the tactical phase on the City of Cadiz map, which ends when any of the victory or defeat conditions occurs. Place the turn marker on the City of Cadiz turn track. I suspect we just use this game track. So we are at medium, so that is 9. So we have to hold out for 9 turns. And I think we count down is how it works. Next, we transfer the fortifications if built in the Cadiz spaces on the Bay of Cadiz map. San Sebastian, that's there, so it's here. Okay. Santa Catalina Fort, right there. And San Felipe Bastion, which is here. So I guess you do place these on the Bay map, which I did not do. The fortification counters maintain their present damaged or undamaged. Let's transfer Spanish leaders in the Cadiz spaces of the Bay of Cadiz map to the center space of the City of Cadiz map. I do not have any leaders that are in this map. They're not in here. Place the Spanish detachment counter on its full strength side on any of spaces A or B. So this is the Spanish detachment. Put it in A, I guess. Done that. Resources remaining on the resource track can be used during this phase. However, no additional resources are received. From this moment onwards, the tactical actions described below are performed during a number of turns determined by the selected difficulty level. The assault on Cadiz can only end in victory or defeat. I'm going to stop here so that we can do the tactical event as a separate video. All right, so we will pick this up. I do want to shout out to my members. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. It is greatly appreciated. The tactical video will follow shortly. In the meantime, I thank everyone for watching. Ask that you please consider liking, sharing, hyping, or subscribing to help support the channel. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. But we are done for now. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. But until next time, I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And as always, happy gaming.